Welcome to Alma Tales Lab, where lying wives and sneaky girlfriends finally get exposed. From girls' trips that never happened to coworkers who were a little too friendly, we break down every red flag, messy receipt, and suspicious text with humor, shock, and just a little bit of petty. Expect wild stories, dramatic reactions, and satisfying karma as the truth comes crashing through the door. If you love relationship tea, plot twists, and seeing players get played, this channel is your new home. Every single chaotic, jaw-dropping, binge-worthy episode. Hit subscribe and never miss a fresh dose of exposed cheating. Don't forget to check our previous stories. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing my wife ever did wasn't just cheating. It was the way she made my sanity the punchline. She told me she was taking a girls' trip, kissed my forehead like I was her dependable roommate, then drove off with a man's suitcase in her trunk. When I asked about it, she didn't even flinch. She put on her sunglasses, smiled like I was annoying her, and called me insecure for noticing. Later, when her male best friend texted her about their hotel room, she blamed me for seeing it. Here's how it happened. I'm Marcel Gaines, 34, born and raised in Prince George's County, Maryland. I'm a type of man who believes consistency is love. I work facilities management in D.C., the kind of job that rewards quiet reliability. Bills paid on time, child picked up on time, groceries stocked, oil changes done before the warning light. I thought marriage ran the same way. Steady effort, steady respect. I didn't need fireworks. I needed honesty. What I didn't realize was that my calm, my patience, and my routine were being used like a soft place to land after someone else's excitement. Nia and I met at a community event in Largo, sorting donations under bright fluorescent lights. She was magnetic, sharp smile, quick laugh, eyes that held you like a promise. She talked about building a life, about wanting peace, about being tired of games. I believed her because it matched what I wanted. We moved fast, but it felt right. We married, had our son, settled into a townhouse in Bowie. On the surface, it looked like a clean story. But in the quiet parts, there were small cuts, little dismissals that taught me to swallow my questions. The first red flag wasn't a message or a suitcase. It was the way Nia began reacting to care like it was control. If I asked what time she'd be home, she'd say I was monitoring her. If I reminded her of our son's school schedule, she'd accuse me of acting like her father. If I wanted a simple check-in, she'd smirk and say, "You're doing the most." I started editing myself. I started choosing silence. I thought I was keeping the peace. In reality, I was training myself to accept disrespect as normal. Terrence was always part of our orbit, her best friend, her brother, her safe person. He'd call late, and she'd step outside to talk. He'd show up to cookouts without checking with me. He'd sit too close on the couch, joking like I wasn't there. I remember one night in Hyattsville when I asked, lightly, "Why does he always know so much about our arguments?" Nia's eyes went cold. "Because he listens," she said. That sentence stayed in my chest like a stone. I wondered when I stopped being the person she listened to. Months passed, and Nia's cruelty got more comfortable. She'd insult me in front of people with a laugh, so she could pretend it was harmless. At a family dinner in Waldorf, she joked that I was boring but useful. Folks chuckled. I forced a smile, because making a scene would have made me the problem. Later, in the car, I told her it hurt. She looked at me like I was asking for too much. "You're too sensitive," she said. "That's why you get walked over." She said it like a fact, not a warning. The girls' trip started as a conversation at our kitchen counter. Nia said she needed space, needed to feel like herself. Again, needed a weekend away with her friends. I wanted to be supportive. I even offered to take our son to my mom's in Upper Marlboro, so she could leave without stress. She smiled, kissed me, and called me the best. It was the kind of moment that makes you think everything is okay again. But the morning she left, I carried her bag outside and felt my stomach drop when the trunk opened. A man's suitcase sat there like it belonged. Hard shell carry-on, scuffed corners, a luggage tag with a name printed in bold. My throat tightened. I asked Nia what it was, keeping my voice calm because I didn't want to hand her ammunition. She didn't even look guilty. She slid on her sunglasses, leaned against the car, and said it was Terrence's. He asked me to drop it off, She said like it was nothing. Then she added, "Don't start, Marcel. I'm not doing this." She made my confusion sound like disrespect. I stood there with the morning air cold against my face, trying to force my brain to accept her explanation. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be the man who trusts his wife, not the man who spirals over luggage. So I swallowed it. I told myself there was a reasonable answer. She drove away, music playing, waving like I just sent her off to a spa. I watched her taillights disappear and felt a quiet shame, like I'd failed a test I didn't know I was taking. Inside, I washed dishes too hard and tried not to think. 2 days later, street sweeping signs lined our block. I got in her SUV to move it. The moment the engine turned over, the Bluetooth connected automatically. The screen lit up with a message preview. I didn't touch anything. I didn't go searching. The truth came to me like it had been waiting. "Terrence, don't forget the room key. And stop calling a girl's trip." My hands went numb. Another message stacked underneath. "You looked good in that dress. He's really letting you live." The words blurred. My heart pounded like it wanted out. I sat in the driver's seat staring at the screen, breathing shallow, feeling sick. What hurt wasn't only the betrayal. It was the humiliation baked into their tone. Like I was a joke they shared. Like my loyalty was something to mock. I called Nia. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted a simple sentence. "Terrence's suitcase. Terrence's messages. Don't insult me." Her reply came fast and cold. "You were never supposed to see that. Stop snooping and acting broke-minded." Not denial. Not shame. Just blame. She made me the villain for standing in front of the evidence. That night, I still had to be a father. I warmed up leftovers, helped my son with his bedtime routine, read him the same book he always asked for. I did it with a tight smile and a cracked heart. After he fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table alone. I didn't cry loud. I cried the way quiet men cry, staring into nothing, wiping tears with the back of a hand, swallowing the sound. I remembered every time I chose peace over confrontation. I realized I'd been building a home with someone who enjoyed pulling the foundation out from under me. The next day at work in D.C., I moved through my tasks like a ghost. Every door I unlocked, every repair ticket I closed, felt like muscle memory keeping me alive. My phone stayed silent. Nia wasn't calling to explain. She wasn't checking on our son. She wasn't trying to fix anything. That absence was its own confession. During my lunch break, I sat in my car and replayed those messages until my stomach churned. I realized something important. I didn't need her to admit it. I needed to protect myself. I needed to stop arguing with a liar and start planning like an adult with a child to raise. I went home and did what I always do when life turns messy. I organized. I pulled bank statements, credit card histories, and our mortgage paperwork. I scrolled through our shared accounts and noticed patterns that didn't match her stories. Ride shares in Arlington, when she claimed she was in Baltimore, hotel deposits, dinners for 2 on nights, she told me she ate alone. The numbers didn't yell. They whispered, steady and clear. I took screenshots. I saved PDFs. I wrote dates down. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. I needed my mind back, and paper trails don't gaslight. The more I looked, the more I realized Nia wasn't just reckless. She was strategic. For months, she'd been pushing me to refinance to lower the payments. She'd been asking me to switch my direct deposit to the joint account for transparency. She'd been suggesting I close the separate savings account I kept for emergencies. I thought she wanted unity. Now I understood she wanted access. Maybe she planned to drain me and leave. Maybe she just wanted the option. Either way, she didn't respect me enough to be honest, but she trusted me enough to fund her lies. That contradiction made my hands shake with anger. I opened a new account at my credit union the next morning. No drama. No announcement. I changed my direct deposit. I froze my credit. I turned on alerts for every transaction. I made sure the mortgage and utilities would still be covered because my son deserved stability. But I also made sure Nia couldn't treat our joint funds like her personal reward. Then I booked a consultation with a family attorney in Upper Marlboro. Walking into that office felt like crossing a line I'd been afraid of for years. But fear didn't protect my family. Action did. The lawyer listened without judging me for staying too long or believing too hard. I showed the screenshots, the timeline, the suitcase detail, the messages on the car screen. He didn't look shocked, just focused. He asked about custody, finances, the home, any risks of retaliation. Then he said something that cut through my haze. Do you want to be right? Or do you want to be safe? I didn't care about being right anymore. I cared about not being destroyed. We discussed separation filings, exclusive use of the home, protecting funds, and keeping everything as clean as possible for court. When Nia came home, she acted like I was supposed to clap for her return. She walked in perfume first, phone face down, smile sharp. She asked what I made for dinner, like she hadn't been laughing at me in some hotel room. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't pace. I just told her I knew. I said Terrence's name out loud. She shrugged like I'd told her the weather. And, she said, opening the fridge, what are you going to do, cry? Then she added, you're not built to leave. That was the moment I realized she wasn't confused. She was confident. I handed her the envelope. Inside were the documents my attorney prepared, separation filings, custody request, and notice that my direct deposit had changed. Also printed, a spreadsheet of dates and charges, and screenshots of Terrence's messages. Nia skimmed it and laughed once low and mean. You really think paperwork scares me? She said. You still have to take care of me. You don't want to look like the man who broke his family. Then she texted someone right in front of me. No hiding. No shame. Terrence showed up an hour later like he belonged on my driveway, wearing confidence like it was cologne. Terrence tried to perform concern. You good, bro? He asked, eyes bright with arrogance. Nia leaned into him like a victory photo. Marcel's finally catching up, she said. I felt heat rise in my chest, but I held my face steady. I wasn't going to wrestle in the mud with two people who enjoy dirt. I told Nia to pack and leave. She smirked. This is my house too, she said. Terrence stepped forward like he could pressure me. That's when I said the sentence that changed the air. Not anymore. Nia froze for half a beat. I explained, calmly, that the deed was in my name. When we bought the place in Bowie, her credit issues delayed paperwork. The lender recommended putting the deed in my name first, then adding her after refinance. Nia kept pushing the refinance off, month after month, so her name never went on the deed. She had treated that delay like a convenience. She didn't realize it was a door she left unlocked, one that protected me when she decided to burn the marriage down. My attorney had already filed for exclusive use of the home based on financial risk and our child's stability. Nia's smirk wobbled, then hardened again. They didn't leave peacefully. Nia slammed cabinets and tossed insults like they were dishes. Terrence paced like a guard dog, but they couldn't force me into a scene that would help them. I recorded nothing flashy. I said as little as possible. I focused on my son, making sure he was asleep, making sure he didn't hear the worst of it, making sure his world didn't shatter in one loud night. Nia finally left with a bag, not because she respected me, but because the legal reality was already moving. She walked out like she was the one choosing it, chin lifted, eyes cold. Terrence followed, still acting like I was the problem. The next few weeks were brutal in quiet ways. Nia didn't ask about our son's homework or schedule. She didn't check if he was eating well. She asked about money. She demanded access. She sent messages that flipped between threats and mockery. When I didn't respond the way she wanted, she called me controlling. She called me petty. She called me weak. She never once said, I'm sorry, not even as a tactic. It was like remorse was beneath her. The loneliness hit me hardest at night, when the house was quiet and my mind replayed every insult, every smirk, every time I begged for basic respect. I kept going anyway. A few days later, I heard she tried to shop at the mall in Columbia with her friends like nothing happened. Her cards declined. All of them. She called me furious, accusing me of embarrassing her. I told her the mortgage was paid, the utilities were paid, and our son had what he needed. Her lifestyle was not my responsibility anymore. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She spit venom. You think you're teaching me a lesson? She snapped. You'll come crawling back. Then she hung up like she had power. But I could hear the panic underneath it. It wasn't love she missed. It was access. When she realized anger wasn't bending me, she tried a different weapon. She filed a complaint at my job, claiming I was controlling and financially abusive. She thought she could ruin my reputation, push me into fear, force me to negotiate. It hit me like betrayal on top of betrayal, because I kept everything private. I tried to handle this like adults, but Nia wanted damage. At work, I sat with HR and gave them context before rumors could grow legs. I brought documentation of the separation process, proof of continued household payments, proof of childcare expenses, and her own text blaming me for seeing what I wasn't supposed to see. I didn't argue. I presented facts. The investigation moved quietly, but it moved thoroughly. HR didn't just take her word or mine. They looked at timelines, communications, and the names she included. Nia's complaint dragged Terrence into it because she framed him as a support person and hinted he'd witnessed my behavior. That decision backfired fast. Terrence worked for a vendor that occasionally serviced accounts tied to my department. Once his name entered an HR inquiry, compliance reviewed vendor communications and billing logs. And because people like Terrence get careless when they feel untouchable, the records didn't line up. Hours billed that didn't match timestamps. Resources used improperly. Messages sent at times he claimed he was on site. The paper trail didn't care about his charm. Karma didn't show up with sirens or a public spectacle. It showed up as an email. Terrence was terminated from his vendor position and flagged for future contracts tied to that network. One day, he was walking up my driveway like a king, and the next he was calling Nia in a panic, asking what she told people, asking why his opportunities were disappearing. Nia didn't call me to apologize. She called me to accuse. "You did this," she said, voice shaking with rage. I didn't raise my voice. "I didn't do anything," I replied. "You filed the complaint. You dragged him into my workplace. You lit that match." She cursed me out and hung up again. Still no remorse, just consequences. Once Terrence lost income, the fantasy got quiet. No more hotel weekends. No more dinners. No more big promises. Nia's messages shifted from arrogant to desperate, but never soft. She tried to negotiate in a voice that still sounded like entitlement. She demanded the house. She demanded the money. She demanded forgiveness she didn't ask for. The court process kept moving anyway. Custody schedules, financial disclosures, formal boundaries. I followed every instruction, kept my records clean, showed up for my son. I didn't chase closure from someone who enjoyed leaving wounds open. My justice wasn't her crying. It was me getting stable again. Months later, the house felt different. Not happier all the time. Healing isn't a straight line, but calmer. I woke up without checking my phone with dread. I cooked breakfast without wondering what lie I was funding. I sat at my kitchen table and realized my nervous system wasn't bracing for insults anymore. My son started sleeping better. His laughter came easier. I didn't throw parties. I didn't announce anything. I didn't post quotes online. I just rebuilt quietly. Therapy sessions after work, long walks in the neighborhood, time with family who didn't ask for drama, just offered support. Nia never apologized. Even when it was clear the court wouldn't reward her cruelty, she kept that same hard edge, like humility would kill her. Terrence vanished when the money did, and I heard through someone else that Nia was living with her sister in Silver Spring, furious at the world, blaming me for consequences she earned. My comeback wasn't loud. It was private success, a protected home, a steady career, a peaceful routine, and a child who knows his father is consistent. Nia wanted a reaction. I gave her a boundary. She tried to break me. I chose my life instead. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.